During the Great Depression, Americans didn't just face financial ruin, they faced starvation. With no social safety nets and little money for food, families turned to their own backyards and wild spaces to survive. They grew, foraged, and cultivated plants that kept their families alive through the darkest economic period in American history. But here's what's shocking. Many of those life-saving plants are now illegal, banned, or heavily restricted. The very crops that helped your grandparents survive the Depression could land you in legal trouble today. Let's explore 20 crops that were once Depression-era lifesavers but are now forbidden fruit, and the surprising reasons behind their prohibition. Marijuana/hemp. During the Great Depression, hemp was still a common sight on American farms. This versatile crop had been grown since colonial times, with even George Washington cultivating it at Mount Vernon. When the Depression hit and cotton prices collapsed, many desperate farmers turned to hemp as an alternative fiber crop that grew quickly in poor soil with minimal water, perfect for drought-stricken farms. Rural families used homegrown hemp to make rope, clothing, and canvas when store-bought goods became unaffordable. Some communities even processed hemp seeds for oil and protein to supplement meager diets. Today, marijuana remains federally classified as a Schedule I controlled substance, making cultivation a serious federal crime in many states. While recent farm bills have re-legalized industrial hemp, growers face strict licensing, THC testing requirements, and regulations that would baffle Depression-era farmers. In states like Idaho, Wyoming, and South Carolina, growing even a single cannabis plant can result in felony charges with prison sentences. The plant that once provided essential fiber, oil, and income during America's darkest economic period became completely criminalized for decades. A stunning reversal that shows how dramatically our relationship with certain plants has changed in just a few generations. Opium poppies. During the Great Depression, those beautiful red poppies growing in your grandmother's garden weren't just for show. Opium poppies were commonly grown in medicinal gardens across America, providing crucial home remedies when doctor visits were unaffordable. Rural families would harvest the seed pods to make teas and tinctures for pain relief, insomnia, and even to quiet colicky babies during those desperate years. Today, opium poppies exist in a confusing legal gray area. While it's technically legal to grow Papaver somniferum as ornamental flowers, it becomes illegal the moment you knowingly harvest the pods for their narcotic content. The DEA maintains that growing with intent to use them for their narcotic properties violates the Controlled Substances Act. This creates a strange situation where the same plant can be both legal and illegal, depending on your intention. Meanwhile, the same poppy seeds that might attract DEA attention in your garden are legally sold in grocery stores for baking. Peyote Cactus. During the Depression, Peyote Cactus was utilized in various communities across the American Southwest. This small, button-like cactus had been used by Native American tribes in ceremonial contexts for thousands of years, and during the economic collapse, some families learned of its medicinal properties from indigenous neighbors. In isolated areas where doctors were scarce and unaffordable, peyote was sometimes used to treat fever, pain, and even tuberculosis, a disease that ravaged impoverished communities during the Depression. The cactus represented valuable knowledge about desert plants that could help people survive when conventional medicine was out of reach. Today, peyote is federally prohibited for general cultivation under the Controlled Substances Act. While a narrow religious exemption exists for members of the Native American Church, recognizing the plant's sacred status in indigenous traditions, this exemption doesn't extend to home gardeners or collectors, regardless of intent. The cactus contains mescaline, a powerful hallucinogen that has placed it on the controlled substances list. What Depression-era communities viewed as valuable traditional knowledge, understanding how to use native plants when conventional medicine was unavailable, has been largely criminalized, with the traditional wisdom surrounding its proper use restricted rather than understood in its cultural context. Coca Plant. During the Great Depression, Coca plants were maintained in some gardens across America, particularly in warmer regions. These weren't for producing cocaine, but rather for traditional uses that had sustained Andean peoples for centuries. When medical care became unaffordable during the economic collapse, families would chew coca leaves to relieve altitude sickness, boost energy during long workdays, or treat digestive issues. For migrant farm workers facing brutal conditions and minimal pay, these traditional remedies provided relief when conventional medicine was completely out of reach. Today, the coca plant is federally prohibited throughout the United States under the Controlled Substances Act. Even possessing a single plant can result in serious federal charges regardless of your intentions. Unlike some other restricted plants that have multiple uses, authorities view coca cultivation through one lens only, as a precursor to cocaine production. What Depression-era families viewed as a connection to cultural heritage and traditional medicine has been completely criminalized, with no exceptions for historical or cultural uses. This transformation from cultural plant to controlled substance illustrates how completely our relationship with traditional plant knowledge has changed in less than a century. Khat. During the Depression, khat plants were maintained in gardens across America, particularly in warmer regions. The plant's mild stimulant properties helped workers endure long hours at physically demanding jobs for minimal pay, a common reality during the Depression. Chewing the leaves provided energy and focus when food was scarce, helping communities survive when resources were limited. For families struggling through economic hardship, khat represented a practical aid during difficult times. Today, khat is classified as a Schedule I controlled substance in the United States, making cultivation a serious federal crime. The DEA considers it in the same category as heroin and LSD, despite its relatively mild effects compared to other stimulants. The plant itself requires tropical or subtropical conditions, making outdoor cultivation impossible in most of the country. However, even attempting to grow it in greenhouses or as a houseplant violates federal law. What Depression-era communities viewed as a practical aid during hard times has been completely criminalized, with the traditional knowledge surrounding its use labeled as drug culture rather than understood as cultural heritage. Salvia Divinorum. During the Depression, Salvia Divinorum was grown in gardens across the American Southwest. This member of the sage family was valued for its medicinal properties during a time when conventional medicine became unaffordable. Families used small amounts of salvia to treat digestive issues, headaches, and rheumatism, following traditional protocols developed over generations. In a time when pain relief was a luxury many couldn't afford, plants like salvia provided crucial alternatives. Today, Salvia Divinorum is banned in Florida, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, and several other states due to its hallucinogenic properties. The plant contains salvinorin A, one of the most potent naturally occurring hallucinogens known to science. Unlike many psychoactive compounds, it works on kappa opioid receptors rather than serotonin receptors, creating a unique and intense experience. Even in states where it's not explicitly banned, growing it could potentially violate federal analog drug laws. What Depression-era communities viewed as specialized healing knowledge, understanding how to properly use potent plants when conventional medicine was unavailable, has been largely criminalized, with the traditional wisdom surrounding its proper use restricted rather than preserved. Castor bean plants. During the Great Depression, castor bean plants were a common sight in gardens across America. These dramatic plants, with their large star-shaped leaves and spiky red seed pods, served multiple purposes for cash-strapped families. The beans were pressed to make castor oil, a multi-purpose remedy used as a laxative to induce labor and to treat skin conditions when medical care was unaffordable. Farmers also planted them around garden borders as a natural pest deterrent, protecting valuable food crops without expensive chemicals. Children would even collect the colorful speckled seeds to use as marbles during play, one of the few toys available during those lean years. Today, growing castor beans can land you on a federal watch list. Why? Those same seeds contain ricin, one of the most potent natural toxins on Earth. After September 11th, castor beans became heavily monitored as potential bioterrorism materials. While not technically illegal to grow, purchasing large quantities of seeds will trigger alerts with federal agencies, and some states have banned them entirely. The FBI actually monitors castor bean purchases because they're used to make biological weapons. What was once a practical, multi-purpose plant in every Depression-era garden is now viewed with suspicion and fear. The transformation of castor beans from common medicinal plant to potential weapon illustrates how dramatically our relationship with traditional plants has changed. Absinthe Wormwood. During the Great Depression, wormwood, Artemisia absinthium, was a staple in medicinal gardens across America. This silvery-leaved plant was prized for its ability to treat digestive issues, parasites, and fever, critical remedies when medical care was unaffordable. Rural families would harvest the leaves to make bitter tonics and teas, providing relief during those desperate years. Though the distilled spirit absinthe had been banned since 1912, the plant itself remained legal and widely used for its medicinal properties, with families carefully using it in ways that didn't violate existing prohibitions. Today, growing wormwood itself is still legal, but its reputation suffered from decades of misunderstanding. The compound thujone, found in wormwood, was long blamed for causing hallucinations and madness. Only in 2007 did regulations finally change, allowing properly formulated absinthe spirits to return to the market. This transformation from valued medicinal plant to feared hallucinogen and back again shows how dramatically our cultural perception of traditional plants can shift over generations. Ephedra. During the Depression, American ephedra, commonly called Mormon tea or desert tea, was a widely used medicinal plant, especially in western states. This native shrub was harvested by desperate families seeking remedies for asthma, congestion, and fatigue when medical care was unaffordable. Native American knowledge about the plant spread to settlers, who embraced it as a caffeine-free stimulant during hard times. Depression-era families would gather the jointed stems, dry them, and brew them into a tea that provided energy for long workdays despite meager food rations. In 2004, the FDA banned all ephedra-containing dietary supplements after linking them to heart attacks and strokes. While the ban technically applies to the Asian species with higher ephedrine content, the American native plant has been caught in the regulatory crossfire. Today, selling American ephedra as a tea or supplement is effectively prohibited, though growing the plant itself remains legal in most areas. What Depression-era Americans viewed as a valuable native resource, one that helped them survive when conventional medicine was out of reach, has been transformed into a controlled substance. This shift shows how traditional plant knowledge that sustained previous generations during crisis has been largely criminalized and forgotten. Kratom. During the Depression, kratom was cultivated in gardens across America, particularly in warmer regions. Families used kratom leaves as a pain reliever, energy booster, and treatment for opium addiction, a significant problem during the Depression when many turned to whatever relief they could find from the daily struggles of poverty. The plant provided a natural alternative when pharmaceutical options were financially out of reach for most Americans struggling through economic hardship. Today, kratom occupies an increasingly controversial position in American plant regulations. This tropical tree from Southeast Asia has been used traditionally for centuries, with workers chewing the leaves for energy and pain relief. In recent years, kratom has gained popularity as an alternative treatment for pain and opioid withdrawal. However, concerns about its potential for dependence, side effects, and inconsistent potency have led to restrictions in several states. Alabama, Arkansas, Indiana, Wisconsin, Vermont, and Rhode Island have banned kratom outright, while other states have implemented age restrictions or specific regulations. The FDA has not approved kratom for any medical use and has issued warnings about its safety. What Depression-era families viewed as a valuable medicinal resource has become the subject of intense regulatory scrutiny. Jimsonweed. During the Depression, Jimsonweed, Datura stramonium, maintained a place in rural medicinal gardens across America, particularly in Appalachia and the Southwest. This potent plant was used in extremely small amounts by knowledgeable folk healers for treating asthma and severe pain when no other options existed. Families would carefully prepare minute quantities of the leaves as a smoking remedy for respiratory conditions, following precise traditional protocols. Native American healing traditions that incorporated ceremonial uses of the plant were still practiced in some communities, representing knowledge developed over thousands of years. Today, cultivating Jimsonweed for any medicinal purpose is effectively prohibited under various state and federal laws. While growing the plant itself isn't federally banned, using it medicinally would violate FDA regulations, and many states classify it as a noxious weed or controlled substance due to its powerful hallucinogenic properties. Law enforcement regularly destroys wild stands of the plant to prevent recreational abuse. The careful, limited medicinal knowledge that guided its use during desperate times has been replaced by complete prohibition. What Depression-era communities viewed as a powerful medicine to be respected has been transformed into a dangerous weed to be eradicated, with the traditional knowledge surrounding its proper use criminalized rather than understood in its cultural context. Water spinach. During the Depression, water spinach was cultivated in garden ponds and wet areas across America, particularly in warmer regions. This fast-growing aquatic vegetable provided crucial nutrition when food was scarce and grocery money non-existent. The hollow stems and tender leaves could be harvested continuously throughout the growing season, providing a reliable source of vitamins and minerals when other vegetables were unavailable. For families facing economic hardship during the Depression, growing foods like water spinach represented both cultural connection and practical survival strategy. Today, water spinach, Ipomoea aquatica, is strictly prohibited in Florida, Texas, California, and Hawaii due to its invasive potential in wetland ecosystems. Also called kangkong or water morning glory, this Asian green is a staple in many Southeast Asian cuisines, but has been banned because of its aggressive growth habit. When water spinach escapes cultivation, it forms dense mats across water surfaces, choking out native vegetation and disrupting aquatic ecosystems. Its rapid growth rate, up to 4 inches daily, makes it nearly impossible to control once established. What Depression-era families viewed as a reliable food source has been transformed into an environmental threat, with the cultural knowledge surrounding its cultivation and use effectively criminalized in many states. Belladonna. During the Depression, belladonna was a common medicinal plant in many American gardens across the country. Despite its toxicity, this plant was carefully cultivated for its powerful medicinal properties. Small amounts were used in homemade remedies for pain, muscle spasms, and respiratory conditions when doctor visits were unaffordable. Knowledgeable family herbalists understood precise dosing and preparation methods, treating the plant with the respect its potency demanded. For many struggling through economic hardship, having access to such medicines meant the difference between suffering and relief. Today, growing belladonna is restricted or outright prohibited in many areas due to its high toxicity and potential for abuse. The plant contains powerful alkaloids like atropine and scopolamine, now controlled substances that require pharmaceutical licensing to handle. While some states allow cultivation for ornamental purposes, using the plant medicinally without proper credentials could result in serious legal consequences. The traditional knowledge that allowed Depression-era families to safely use this powerful plant has largely disappeared, replaced by fear and prohibition. What was once considered responsible self-sufficiency, growing your own medicines when you couldn't afford a doctor, is now viewed as dangerous and potentially criminal. Foxglove. During the Great Depression, foxglove was a common sight in medicinal gardens across America. This tall, striking plant with its tubular flowers wasn't just ornamental, it was potentially life-saving. Families with heart condition sufferers often grew foxglove as a source of digitalis, a powerful heart medicine. When commercial medications became unaffordable during those desperate years, knowledgeable home herbalists would carefully prepare small amounts of foxglove tea or tincture according to recipes passed down through generations. This homegrown remedy helped many survive when the economic collapse put conventional medical care out of reach. Today, using homegrown foxglove as medicine is illegal and dangerous, while growing the plant itself remains legal as an ornamental. Extracting or preparing digitalis from garden foxglove would violate FDA regulations and pharmaceutical laws. The precise knowledge of how to safely prepare and dose this powerful plant has been lost to most families, replaced by pharmaceutical digitalis that requires a prescription. What was once considered prudent self-sufficiency, growing a critical medicine when you couldn't afford to buy it, is now viewed as reckless and potentially criminal. The transformation of foxglove from valued medicinal to mere garden flower represents how completely our relationship with medicinal plants has changed in less than a century. Kudzu. During the Depression, kudzu was actively promoted by the government as a miracle plant that would save American farms. The USDA actually paid farmers to plant this Asian vine as a solution for soil erosion, a critical problem during the Dust Bowl years. With its rapid growth and extensive root system, kudzu seemed perfect for stabilizing barren hillsides across the South. Desperate farmers embraced it, seeing not just erosion control, but also potential livestock fodder during drought years. Some families even made kudzu jelly from the fragrant purple flowers, a rare sweet treat when sugar was available. Today, kudzu is prohibited in Pennsylvania, Oregon, Washington, and heavily restricted throughout the Southeast. What government agents once paid farmers to plant is now classified as one of America's most destructive invasive species. Kudzu grew with unstoppable vigor, up to a foot per day in summer heat, smothering entire forests, swallowing abandoned buildings, and earning the nickname, the vine that ate the South. A single root crown can extend vines over 100 feet in all directions, making control nearly impossible once established. The economic damage from this plant exceeds $500 million annually in lost forest productivity and control costs. This dramatic reversal from government-promoted solution to banned invasive perfectly illustrates how good intentions and limited ecological understanding can lead to environmental disaster. Giant hogweed. During the Depression, giant hogweed was found in ornamental gardens of estates and botanical collections across America. This dramatic plant from the Caucasus Mountains, with its towering stems reaching 15 feet tall and umbrella-shaped flower clusters spanning 2 to 3 feet across, was prized by plant collectors for its impressive size and exotic appearance. Depression-era botanical gardens featured it as a curiosity, and home gardeners with access to imported seeds grew it as a statement plant, unaware of the danger it posed. Today, giant hogweed is prohibited in New York, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Washington, and other states, with mandatory eradication programs in place. What makes this plant so dangerous is its sap, which contains photosensitizing compounds that remove the skin's protection against ultraviolet light. Contact followed by sun exposure causes severe burns, blistering, and permanent scarring. Eye contact can lead to blindness. The reaction can persist for years, with affected skin remaining sensitive to sunlight. What Depression-era plant enthusiasts viewed as an impressive ornamental has been transformed into a public health threat, with federal and state agencies actively working to eradicate it. This shift illustrates how our understanding of plant safety has evolved, with aesthetic appeal now secondary to public health concerns. Brazilian pepper tree. During the Depression, Brazilian pepper trees were found in southern Florida and parts of Texas, introduced as ornamental plants by estate owners and botanical gardens. With their glossy evergreen leaves, clusters of small white flowers, and bright red berries, they created a Christmas-like appearance that appealed to homesick northern transplants. Depression-era families in Florida harvested the berries for decorations, creating festive garlands when store-bought Christmas ornaments were unaffordable luxuries. The tree's rapid growth and drought tolerance made it seem like an ideal landscape plant during those resource-limited years. Today, Brazilian pepper tree is prohibited in Florida and Texas, with ongoing control efforts costing millions annually. In Florida alone, it has invaded over 700,000 acres of natural areas. What makes this tree so problematic is its aggressive growth and allelopathic properties. It releases chemicals that inhibit the growth of competing vegetation. A single female tree can produce up to 100,000 berries annually, each containing 1 to 3 seeds. Birds eagerly consume the berries, dispersing seeds across the landscape. The plant also causes severe allergic reactions in many people, similar to its relative poison ivy. What Depression-era gardeners viewed as an attractive ornamental has been transformed into an ecological nightmare, with state agencies actively working to eradicate it from natural areas. Tree of Heaven. During the Depression, Tree of Heaven was a common sight in urban areas across America. This fast-growing Asian tree had been introduced to Philadelphia in 1784 and became popular in cities for its ability to thrive in poor conditions. When the economic collapse left urban areas neglected and deteriorating, Tree of Heaven filled abandoned lots and alleyways, providing rare greenery in concrete landscapes. Many communities maintained cultural connections to the tree, which had traditional medicinal uses. For urban families with no access to rural medicinal plants, this tree represented one of the few available natural remedies during hard times. Today, Tree of Heaven is prohibited in Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania, with restrictions increasing as it's recognized as the preferred host for spotted lanternfly, an invasive insect threatening agricultural crops. What makes this tree so problematic is its combination of aggressive growth, allelopathic properties, and structural issues. It releases chemicals that inhibit the growth of competing vegetation, produces up to 350,000 wind-dispersed seeds annually, and sprouts vigorously from roots when cut down. The brittle wood breaks easily in storms, creating hazards and property damage. What Depression-era urban dwellers viewed as a resilient source of greenery and traditional medicine has been transformed into an ecological threat, with state agencies actively working to eradicate it from natural areas. Water hyacinth. During the Depression, water hyacinth appeared in ornamental ponds and water gardens across the southern United States. This floating aquatic plant, with its glossy rounded leaves, inflated petioles, and stunning lavender blue flowers had been introduced to the United States at the 1884 World's Fair in New Orleans. Estate owners maintained it in decorative ponds, and entrepreneurial Depression-era families collected and sold the plants to botanical gardens and private collectors, providing rare income during those desperate years. The plant's exotic beauty offered a brief escape from the harsh realities of economic hardship. Today, water hyacinth is prohibited in Florida, Texas, Louisiana, and California, with control costs exceeding $100 million annually. What makes water hyacinth so problematic is its explosive growth rate. Under ideal conditions, it can double its population in just 12 days. The plants form dense mats that block sunlight, deplete oxygen, impede water flow, and prevent boat navigation. A single acre of water hyacinth can weigh up to 200 tons and contain millions of plants, each capable of producing thousands of seeds that remain viable for years. What Depression-era plant enthusiasts viewed as an exotic beauty has been transformed into one of the world's most destructive aquatic invasives, with state and federal agencies actively working to control its spread. Purple loosestrife. During the Depression, purple loosestrife was found in wetland areas across the northeastern United States. With its tall spikes of magenta flowers that bloomed for months, it created spectacular displays that captivated gardeners and naturalists. Depression-era beekeepers encouraged its growth as the plant provided abundant nectar during summer months when other flowers had faded. Rural families sometimes harvested the flowers for homemade dyes, creating rare splashes of color in otherwise drab wardrobes during those lean years. Today, purple loosestrife is prohibited in most northern states, including Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois, with biological control using specialized beetles showing promise in recent decades. What makes this plant so problematic is its reproductive capacity and competitive advantage in wetlands. A single plant can produce up to 2.7 million seeds annually, each the size of ground pepper and capable of remaining viable in soil for years. Once established, it forms dense stands that displace native wetland plants, reducing habitat for waterfowl and other wildlife. What Depression-era nature enthusiasts viewed as a beautiful addition to the landscape has been transformed into an ecological threat, with state and federal agencies actively working to control its spread and restore native wetland vegetation. Which of these forbidden Depression-era plants surprised you the most? The crops that once helped our grandparents survive America's darkest economic period have been largely criminalized, restricted, or banned, often for reasons that would baffle those who relied on them. If you found this journey through our agricultural past interesting, hit that subscribe button for more videos exploring America's forgotten gardening traditions.